Greetings fellow gamers, my name is Peter, I'm also known as Universal Head, and this is my channel and website. It's called the Esoteric Order of Gamers, and it's all about fun, thematic games. They're the kind of games I love, and it doesn't matter if they're Euro style or full-on tabletop miniatures games, as long as they're fun and thematic, they're the games for me. So today we're going to talk about one from Gale Force 9. It's just about coming out now. It's called Tusk. Now, of course, if you're anywhere near my vintage, you'll immediately start thinking of the Fleetwood Mac song. Not a song I particularly ever liked. Not a huge Fleetwood Mac fan, I have to say. But that aside, this game is not about whatever that song was about. It's about Neolithic tribes racing to survive as the Ice Age encroaches. And there's a bit of hunting mammoths in it as well, which is a little bit difficult. I'm a big supporter of elephants and their habitats. And so, yeah, killing mammoths. But mammoths are extinct, so I really have to draw a line there, don't I? But let me tell you all about this game. I'm going to tell you how it plays. I'm also going to give you my impressions of it. And by the time you finish watching this video, you'll be able to make an informed decision about whether you want to buy Tusk or not. Oh, and by the way, Gale Force 9 were kind enough to send me this copy for review. Well, here we have a two-player game of Tusk ready to play. It plays from 2 to 4. We start off with the mammoth breeding ground in the centre of our little world, and it's surrounded by 6 hexes, and you can put resources on those if there are resources indicated on the tile. You each have a tribe. This is your tribe card. And you have 4 tribe members that start on these spaces up here. One of your tribe members can start on one of the hexes on the board. You have a season deck of cards and a victory deck. At the start of the game, each player will get 3 of these victory cards, look at them and choose one. These are very important because they're important victory conditions. Let's keep those face down. You have a bunch of resources over here. You can see them on the card here. Lumpy stones, pointy sticks, clumps of grass, and tasty food. These are the very important resources you'll be collecting during the game. Now, the person with the most tasty food at the end of the game is the winner, so make sure you get that tasty food. Finally, you've got the hunt board over here. If you go on a hunt to try and kill the mammoth, you might get yourself lots and lots of tasty food. Oh, and there's a stack of terrain tiles here because you'll be expanding this world as you go into the first turns of the game. So how do you play Tusk? Well, there are 3 phases in a turn: the tribe phase, the hunt phase, and the season phase. In the tribe phase, the first thing I can do is grow my tribe. And the cost to do so is represented by the empty spaces to the left of my remaining tribe members. So in this case, it would cost me 1 tasty food token to move a tribe member onto the board, and they go into a hex with one of my existing tribe members. In a later turn, it would cost me 2 tasty food tokens to move the next tribe member onto the board, and so on. The next thing I can do is send tribe members on a hunt for the mammoth. Now, they won't be able to take any actions this turn if I do this, but I can grab as many as I want and take them over to the hunting party. Now, if I'm the first player who does that, they become the hunt leader. And if I kill the mammoth in the subsequent combat, they will get to decide where the spoils go. Next, you've got send out gatherers. I can take 2 actions with each remaining tribe member. So I can either move, in each move action, I can move 2 spaces. Now, some of these are difficult terrain, and if I enter difficult terrain, I have to stop. For example, the jungle here, so I can't move 2. I can also gather, so if I land in a space with resources, I can take one of them and place them on my sheet. I can also recover. If I've been wounded in a fight or in the hunt, I can stand up again. And finally, if I'm in the same hex as another tribe member, I can fight them as an action. How do you fight other tribe members? Well, first you decide how many resources you want to commit to the fight. So assuming I had some resources on my tribe board here, I could commit some of these different ones to the fight, and they affect the fight results. Both players roll a die for each one of their tribe members on the tile, unless you're wounded of course, and you add +1 to each die roll for each pointy stick you're using, and you subtract 1 from each die roll for each clump of grass that your opponent is using. You each roll a dice, and each 6 or more, there's a 6, it's the exclamation mark, That wounds an opposing tribe member who get laid down on their side. If you won the fight, you take tasty food tokens from the resource pile equal to the difference between the wounds you inflicted and the wounds you suffered. If you wounded any tribe members, each lumpy stone you're using wounds an additional tribe member belonging to that player, and you can do this whether you won or lost the fight. At the end of the fight, of course, you discard all the resources you used. So once everyone has had a go at completing those steps, we move on to the hunt phase. This is where the hunters attack. So let's assume we have a few hunters in here and they want to attack the mammoth. First, the participating players can decide how many tokens they want to contribute to the attack, and this is where some of the resources come in handy. So let's say I've got some of these, lumpy stone, whatever. So I can commit, say, let me see, a clump of grass and a pointy stick and a lumpy stone to this particular hunt. Then everyone who is participating in the hunt gets to roll a d6, and they get +1 to each die roll for each pointy stick they're using. So I'm using a pointy stick. I need a 5 or a 6 to hit the mammoth. No! If I'd succeeded, I would have got one of the tasty food tokens. And if I wound the mammoth, every lumpy stone token I've committed allows me to take another tasty food token. So when a player takes the last tasty food token, the mammoth has been defeated and the tribe members are victorious. So the person who is in the hunt leader space takes an extra 4 tasty food tokens. Yes, another whole 4. And they can distribute those as they see fit to themselves or to other players. So a little bit of diplomacy and deal making can go on here. At any time you can exchange resources from your board with other tribe members. So you can do deals and work out little allegiances during this quite short game. Now, if the poor old mammoth is not dead, it fights back. So it gets to roll a dice for each tribe member. If you committed a lump of grass to the fight, you get to subtract 1 from each die roll against your tribe members. Now, the mammoth hits you on a 4, 5 or 6. So assuming I had 1 clump of grass, it'll hit me on a 5 or a 6. Oh no, I've been hit. That means I've been wounded. Finally, any tribe members who wish to call off the hunt can take their piece back, or they can continue fighting the mammoth, but of course he'll get another chance to fight back. Unfortunately, after each round of combat, you have to discard your resources and then decide if you're going to commit more to the next round of combat. There are a few other special rules scattered throughout the game. For example, some of the hexes allow you to discard certain resources to get food. And of course the season cards have all kinds of special things going on. They can add and subtract resources. They can remove tribe members from play if they're in particular terrains. There are even things like having to get all your tribe members to a stone circle hex, or you've got to discard resource tokens. They just make play even more interesting. Well, all this gathering resources, growing your tribe, and occasionally having a bit of biffo with the other tribe members is all very well, but isn't this a game about surviving the Ice Age? Well, I hate to tell you, that's what it's all about, because from the 3rd turn onwards, the Ice Age begins to encroach upon your otherwise verdant lands. And what we do when that turn arrives is roll a dice, and we find the spot on the central tile 2, we go out to the edge, turn that tile over, there's the ice, and then everything clockwise of that in that row turns over. And all resources on any of those tiles are discarded. And here comes the ice and snow. Oh. From then on, every time you turn over a season card, you don't know how bad it's going to be. You might be lucky. You might get a 0, in which case the ice just stays where it is and doesn't encroach further upon the land. Then again, you might draw a 1, which means the entire next row of tiles will get turned over to their icy side. Or even worse, you may get a 2, in which case the next 2 rows will become ice. And let me tell you, there is nothing going on ice tiles. No resources, no special abilities, no difficult ground, just ice and snow. Finally, there'll be nothing left but ice and snow, and the game is over. Players check their victory cards and get any tasty food that they can score. Now, some of these cards they may have exposed during the game because they have to. For example, every time you participate in a successful hunt but don't get any food, you place a food there and then you score 3 food for each token there at the end of the game. So you have to reveal that as you put tokens on it during the game. Others may have remained hidden all the way through the game, but the other players have probably got a pretty good idea about what kind of card you had by the way you were desperately stockpiling, for example, lumpy stones, because you get 2 tasty food per lumpy stone token on your board at the end of the game, or you might get 3 tasty food for each pair of clump of grass and pointy sticks tokens on your tribe board at the end of the game. In the end, the person with the most tasty food wins and probably has the most chance to survive the oncoming thousands of years of Ice Age. Or not. So what do I think of Tusk? Tusk with an exclamation mark. I think it's a lot of fun. It does have some problems, however, so I think I'll break this into a bit of a pros and cons kind of review, just for something a bit different. To start with, the cons. And the main con is the first few turns of the game and the fact they're a bit slow and grindy. And they also depend on whether you've got any food on the board, which is completely random because you're setting up those first 6 tiles randomly. And you may get food and you may not. If you don't have food, you're going to be stuck with 1 tribe member for the first few turns and not a whole lot is going to happen. You probably won't have the opportunity to go on the hunt because you'll be desperately trying to get a few resources to kick things off. So the hunting just doesn't even enter into the first few turns. Now, because this is such a short game, that is kind of surprisingly impactful on the whole game. It's not until you get a couple of tribe members on and things start ramping up that it starts happening. In fact, it probably doesn't start happening as a game until you've got all of the terrain tiles out. The lead up to that kind of feels like a bit of a setup rather than an actual game, and I wonder if the whole idea of expanding and then going into the Ice Age could have done without the whole expanding bit. Because when the Ice Age starts hitting, it's fantastic fun. Things really, really ramp up. And you're dreading the next turn of the season card to see how many tiles are going to turn into ice, eat up all the resources, and basically dictate how much longer you have to go in the game to achieve your goals. So I wasn't enamoured of those first few turns. They do feel a little bit clunky. Now, one tiny silly little thing is that these meeples, while cute, are a little bit top heavy. Very easy to knock over, and of course if it's lying over it's wounded, so you've just got to be careful not to knock them over. You probably saw as I was demonstrating the game I kept knocking them over all the time, so maybe a little bit less tall, that would have been better. Another thing I wasn't absolutely crazy about, and it's just my opinion, is the artwork. I didn't really like the cartoony style. I think cartoony was great, I just didn't really like this particular illustrator. And it's just a matter of taste. There are all racial groups represented, of course, because this is Neolithic, so there are dark skins and light skins and everything. But when you're doing drawings of people with sort of bones stuck in their hair and through their nose and everything, and you do those as dark-skinned people, it just feels slightly uncomfortable to me. I know they're doing it for white people as well, and there's a range of colours on the cards, but yeah, some of the illustrations just made me cringe slightly. The other thing, of course, is that this game is very, very random. It depends on the order of season cards you get. It's what tiles come out and where the resources are. It's completely random. There is some room for a bit of strategy in what you do, but this is a fun game that doesn't make any pretensions to being a deep Euro game or anything like that. It's supposed to be a quick, fun family game. So I don't think that's a con, really. It's just that you should be aware of it going in, that it's very random in all respects. Well, let's get on to the good stuff. Now, I really like the victory cards. I think they're a lot of fun and they can really dictate the style of play that you have. If you get the Warmonger, of course you're going to get out there wanting to biffo everybody you possibly can. If you've got another one where you just want to collect resources, you'll be quietly collecting your resources and not wanting to spend them on combats, because of course you have to spend resources during combats or the hunt. So you might want to just marshal your resources for the points at the end. The great thing about all this, of course, is that you can see what the other players are doing, and it gives you an idea of what their game-winning strategy is. So you can start working against that and do things to spoil that strategy. I think that's really fun. I really like the idea that you get this distinctive feel of play for each one of the different players according to those cards. The season cards are a lot of fun too. As I said, they're super random, but they can really shake things up. They make the Ice Age phase really fun as the Ice Age is sweeping across, because You may think, oh, any second now it's going to sweep across and the game is going to end. And then you just might get a run of 0 cards where the Ice Age stops for a little while. And that uncertainty towards the end of the game is a lot of fun. I've had games that come right down to the wire and a dice roll. And for me, I love that kind of thing because I think when you make that dice roll, it's absolutely hilarious and fun. Some people don't like that kind of thing, especially people who don't like a lot of luck in their games. If you don't like luck and randomness in your games, steer clear of this one. But I had a game where it came down to a roll where I had to get a 6 and I got the 6 and won, and everyone was just going, "Rah!" It was huge. So I think that it can be really fun at the end as it ramps up, and the excitement of this game as it does this is a lot of fun for me. I really like the semi-co-op nature of the game. At the start of the game, you are trying to do your thing and do your resources and all the rest of it, but you do cooperate to go on the hunt because there's a lot of tasty food tokens to be had there. So you can cooperate, you can do deals, you can say to another player, look, I'll give you 3 pointy sticks if you go on the hunt with me, and I get 2 of the food at the extra food at the end. So that's a nice aspect of it. Of course, that kind of thing increases with more players. 2 players, you won't find yourself doing it too much, but I imagine it's more with more players. But it's nice. But of course, as you get to the end and the Ice Age is encroaching on the land, things get a little bit more selfish and you start going for those victory conditions. And I love that kind of play. I love a game which is cooperative to start with, but then gets cutthroat at the end. And Tusk does that quite well. The main thing I have to recommend about this game, though, is that it's short and fun. It doesn't outstay its welcome. It's 30 to 60 minutes, probably 60 minutes is around the mark. And I like short, fun games that I can bring out so I can play 2 or 3 games a night. I have lots of long, complex games in my collection, so it's always good to get another short one in. And I think there's a lot packed into this short gameplay. It's such a shame about those slow first grindy turns. I wish I could just sort of get rid of those and get to the fun stuff. And in one respect, this reminds me a little bit of another Gale Force 9 game. And that is the recent release Dune, a game of conquest and diplomacy, because this game as well is short and really fun, but it also has that feeling in the first few turns that you're not really doing much. You're sort of placing things around and you're kind of getting a strategy together, but the turns are over very quickly and you feel like, I'm going to run out of game before this gets fun. And then towards the end of Dune, it suddenly ramps up and becomes incredibly tense and there's a lot of conflict going on and it just becomes a great game. I felt the same a little bit with Tusk. They've got this similar thing in that it starts off slow and then gets really exciting towards the end. So the only thing I can say about Tusk and Dune is that they're fun games and they're short fun games, but there's just something about the rhythm of them that they start too slow. And I wish they could sort of start the game running a little bit more and then ramp it up instead of starting really slow and then going slow for a while and then suddenly ramping up at the end. So there you go, my final opinion of Tusk. It's got a few problems, especially with that early game, but I do think it's a fun game. I don't think you should go into it if you're expecting some kind of deep Euro or anything like that. It's not supposed to be that. It's supposed to be a short, fun family game, and at that, it succeeds admirably. Experienced gamers will probably find some things about it that are irritating, but in the end, I'm here for the fun, and Tusk hits the mark. So here it is, Tusk, Gale Force 9. Good to see Gale Force 9 churning out so many games lately. They're doing some great stuff, and this one doesn't have a license attached to it, which is unusual for them. Hope you've enjoyed watching this video. Again, I'm Peter, Universal Head, Esoteric Order of Gamers. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. It only takes a second, and I really appreciate it. Hit the subscribe button and the all notifications bell so you get notifications of upcoming videos. I'm on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. I'm on Twitter a lot, but I'm on all the others as well. And I've got a Patreon channel at patreon.com/esotericorder if you choose to support me, which would be highly appreciated. And you'll also get access to the exclusive Esoteric Order of Gamers Discord channel, which is a great little community. I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye. Tusk!